because I research on my name, I research on my surname, I see that I am the only Obehi A14 in the entire world. Based on our technology, we can eradicate all the hunger in the world. I'm not saying only some, all of it. The lion can kill zebra anytime. But you see, when the lion has eaten and is not hungry, if the zebra come around and start munching on the lion will not kill the zebra.
I found out in our history, if you go back to the Egyptian hieroglyphic, beer actually was created by us. The Europeans got the formula and they used it, and that's what they
Hello, everyone, and thank you for today's episode of the Obehi podcast. I remain your host, Obehi A14, the one and only Obehi A14 in the whole of Verona. Of course, in the entire world, I want to proudly say that because I research on my name, I research on my surname, I see that I am the only Obehi A14 in the entire world. So I'm really very proud of that. And of course, we're talking about storytelling because we love to encourage people to leverage the power of storytelling because it's the only thing that actually sets you apart in the world. Today, there are more than 5 billion people on the internet, more than 5 billion people on the internet. So you don't want to make the mistake of thinking that I want to speak to everybody. It is not possible. You want to speak to a certain amount of audience. Guess about it. You could speak to the people who resonate with your story. That is a powerful thing. With me now, you don't need to waste your time. If you are talking to only women of age 35 to 50, you don't need to worry about the young girls that are just growing up today. They are not part of your audience. If your audience are children that may be let's say from 11 to 17, that is what you care about. You don't care about those that are wearing pampers, and you don't care about those that are maybe overaged. So if you tell your story, you are filtering out those who can listen to you, those who should pay attention, because you're going to be using element and flavor in your story, which says that this is my target audience. So we are saying, learn to leverage the power of your story. So today, I have the honor of talking to Mr. Vincent, who is joining us, Vincent Moore. Of course, I'm really looking forward to this conversation. Believe me, it's going to be an interesting one. Mr. Vincent, thank you so much for being here. Please tell the people who you are.
Yes. Thank you so much. Thank you. Uh, I am of course, you might see a picture behind me, which is involving cultural music. I am a chef, and what I do is I honor my legacy. So those two names together is legacy chef. I come from New Orleans. Most people say Nolans down there, which is a big culture of great music, great musicians around the world. And of course, it's the birthplace of jazz music around the world. And most of that music came from the motherland, which it started, which is in Africa. And then, of course, us being brought over here as our disconnected brothers and sisters and became Americans from that point later on. But the music never left, as well as the types of cuisine that was evolved at that time and during those times. Unfortunately, during slavery, we were able to take the leftover styles of food and bringing all of our seasonings, all of our culture, and turned that into culinary genius. And over the years, those different styles of food and music were passed down to each and every one of us. My lineage goes back to 1863. We actually traced it back. We couldn't do the connection yet. We're still working on that of where we came from within Africa, because of course that has to do with documents and other types of things. But the food and the music, that continues to evolve and live on. And that was passed on from generation to generation. And that came, of course, to me. And we didn't go to culinary schools because at that time it was, you weren't allowed to go to those. So we became actually world-class chefs within our own families. And we've opened up restaurants within New Orleans, which is actually a lot of chefs around the world come there in order to eat our food. And so I come from the first family in the family tree. And those recipes were passed to my grandfather and then to my mother. And my mother passed them on to me and my siblings. Of course, you have those that are a little bit more talented than others, but we all had our specific talents. And I decided to take that legacy of food and music, fuse them into one, and create a whole different series, which is recipes inspired by music. So I listen and hear the music, but to me, I see wonderful recipes, and it doesn't matter the type of music. I can hear it and I can see it and develop a whole recipe from that originally. And that's where all the excitement comes in. So you take the stories and the music, which is actually, a sense, a story, and you can translate that into wonderful cultural foods. And I like to make them soulful, and I love to have them taste extremely well. So that's exactly who you're meeting today. And you probably have a lot of questions, but I wanted to let you know in a short little bit about my family history all the way through to now.
That's so beautiful. That's so beautiful. FML, food, music, and legacy. These are the things
Yes,
that you are educating us about today, and I'm very privileged to be exposed to that story. That is really beautiful. That is really really beautiful.
thank you. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. So, like we often do here in the Obehi podcast, because we're entirely here about the story. We love the story because it helps us to connect to many many things that people might not even imagine. I'm imagining the end of this episode now. People will be, I've had the chance to be able to know this that I didn't even know about before. We think that it might be in it. I live in Italy. In Italian, will be called banale, will mean ordinary, no? But it is not
Yes,
ordinary. That is not ordinary. Toni Morrison said that we also need to pay attention to the ordinary because from there we need to go to the extraordinary. Because everything is around us. All the information are there around us. The mountain, the valley, the people, the monument, everything is there. If you do nothing about that, they are still going to be there. To
yeah,
you, where you live, where you see, they are ordinary. But you can transform them to become extraordinary.
yes, it is so true. Very, very true. Um, Most people have asked me in my journeys because when did you actually start to become a chef? I wouldn't say I was born thinking I wanted to do what I am doing now. I was just like most. You go to school, you get your education, maybe you see the world, you do different things in life. Mine was pursuing excellence, and that was what my family was all about. Anything that you do, you put 100% in. And some of you may relate to that. And as a small child, I wasn't the most, shall we say, behaved child. So part of some of my punishment was either, of course, you had, the discipline that most kids get, or my mom gave me a choice and she said, because my mom did a lot of the disciplining because my dad was traveling and doing things with his work. And so maybe you relate to that. The mother was the one who was the one carrying the big stick. And so she would talk to me and she would say, I am tired of using the big stick. So you got a choice. I can do this one more time as far as I got a different option for you. She liked to watch TV. And over here we have these shows which are called soap operas. In other words, you sit there and you listen to other people's stories and their life, and it's very boring. And for a child, so my mom said, you either do this and you do what I tell you in the kitchen to do. And I said, oh, no, no. But I'm sitting there really going, yes, 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 because I'm very interested in going into the kitchen. But that's not a punishment. So I was a little bit, deceitful as a child. And I think that it was a punishment for me. So I made these whining noises and things like that. And so I went into the kitchen with my mom, and she's like, oh, this is the perfect punishment for you. And so I'm learning how to cook from her. But little did I know, I was learning from one of the family gatekeepers of secrets for recipes, how to develop them, how to create something from nothing. So I would be watching my mom as she's doing different things. I wouldn't recommend this, but my mom was like, I'm right there. So she gave me tools to either cut things, chop them up to get them ready, or to watch what she was doing. And of course, you're around, a hot kitchen. So, in those types of areas, that may or may not be the best place for children who are very inquisitive and say, oh, what's that? And ouch.
So you don't put your hand on pepper or fire, put it on your face, no?
Yeah, of course. And then, of course, you're going, oh, no, no, no. And my mom said, that's how you learn. She said, you now not to do that. So all those years, I started very young. I was, around about maybe 6 or 7 when I was in there with my kitchen, in the kitchen with my mother, and we're doing all these different things. And so she would ask me at some point, what would you put in that? What would you do with this? Why do you think I'm putting and doing this first instead of second? And so that's the stuff that I was learning and doing. And so after a while, I think my mother figured out that wasn't punishment for me.
You actually enjoyed it.
But she said, you're a good helper, so come into the kitchen anyway. And so my punishment evolved to, okay, you are now going to cook dinner for the family. And in my family, I had 5 of us total, brothers and sisters. So I had 2 older brothers, 1 older sister, and 1 younger sister, just 1 year younger than me. I don't know why they didn't get the punishment I got.
I know how you were more inquisitive. You were more able to touch things and more like that. So therefore, you need to face some punishment as a way of telling you, hey, you don't need to do that. But now it turns out to become opportunity for you to learn even more.
Yes, absolutely. So there was always another level up. And my mother said, I'm going. Have you cooked dinner? If you cooked the meal on Sunday, everyone's there. The brothers, sisters, my dad, he's sitting at the head of the table. And then, of course, we have unannounced friends who show up because they're going, oh, at Vince's house on Sunday, they have great food. So you have all these friends in there too, all these different tables and stuff. It was actually very fun. But if you cooked the meal, it was very, very a big deal. So when you did it, and if you didn't do it right, they would eat it, but they would be talking to you about what you did wrong
So you never make
while you're eating it. And it wouldn't stop there. It would last the whole month until someone else did it, because that was it. Once a month, my mom would pick someone else to do the meal, so that gives her a break. The other Sundays she would do all of it, but that one, so there was one month where everybody would talk about you. So my mom said, what are you going to make? And I said, well, I'm going to make my favorite. And she said, well, what's that? And I said, I'm going to make shrimp and grits. And she's like, why would you do that? Isn't that for breakfast? And I said, well, you said, Mom, to expand your horizons. Never let anyone tell you to create something and that you're creating something and that it's the wrong thing. Just do it. If it tastes good and it feels good, go and do it. So,
You go for
and
it.
I reminded her of her words, and she just laughed. And she said, "Okay, I guess we will have a breakfast for our dinner." So
That's
I
lovely.
I cooked shrimp and grits with the New Orleans style seasonings and the techniques that she had passed on to me. And she's like, "Okay, but before you do it on this coming Sunday, show me first."
So she can be
So I had
sure
to go in.
that.
Yes, so I had to go in the kitchen and make it for my mom and set it for her. And then she was like,
Good. Now
and
tell me
so
about
that
tell me
she's,
about the New Orleans. That is where you were born. That is where you grew up, and that is where you still
yes.
are today, right? Tell me if
Yeah,
anything has changed.
yeah, a lot has changed, and it's changed, in both ways. Culturally, we have, of course, you heard around the world when we had the Hurricane Katrina, when that came through and made a lot of devastation in Louisiana, which in New Orleans. Some areas weren't hit, and some were. A lot of the areas of residential areas were devastated, and it was not a good time. But there was a lot of love and a lot of support from around the world, and a lot of people came there to help clean and help families and stuff. And while they were there, they fell in love with the city and the people and the culture, because we have a very high culture there with music, with dance, with food, with architect, scenery. There's so much, and what we call Southern hospitality. Uh, you could be without nothing, but you will still want to give and serve and to help others. And you take the time to speak with people when they say hello, when they go through the street, instead of hello and you keep walking. No, you actually stop and you actually talk for a minute. So if you actually go to New Orleans, you will find that there's no one in a hurry. Everyone takes their time. When you get your food, don't expect it to be there within 5 minutes or so. It's going to come when it comes, and when it does come out, it's going to be right. And so we're used to that. We call that Southern time. When you go down there, it's just going to be Southern time. So don't be in a hurry. Don't rush, because you're going to get there at Southern time, which is the right time to be there. So a lot of in my family and culture, how it's changed in New Orleans is because of all the new people that have moved there because they fell in love with New Orleans. You have a huge rise of Asian, a huge rise of Latinos, Mexicans. You have a rise of a lot of Europeans internationally from all over, and actually Middle Eastern as well too. So you got that nice little bohemian mix of all the cultures coming together and styles. So that changes New Orleans a little bit, because now you have an influx of their culture, their foods, and of course, when you go there, we make it our own. You might come as an Asian person, but you're going to be a New Orleans person within 2 or 3 months. You never change New Orleans. New Orleans changes you. So
Influence.
that's a lot of our culture is that. And you probably experience that too when you come to your home country or where you're at. They become you,
Yeah,
not the other way around.
that's true. That's true. So you were talking of the Hurricane Katrina.
Yes,
I think George Bush was the president at the time, if I'm not mistaken. So tell me about it. Where were you at the time? Because just as you were talking, I was just
yes,
looking at some images online to sort of refresh our memory about
yes,
that horrible situation. I'm not asking the question because we want to remember the horrible situation, but what he have, the effect that they have had on us, how we have become better based on what have happened to us. Because something will happen to us, whether you like it or not. The question is, what do we learn from it? How do we move forward from it? Just because you made mention of it, that is why I'm asking you. So, where were you during the time of the Hurricane Katrina?
Yes, I was actually out of the state, but I walked and I saw it on the TV, and because I mean, it was everywhere, and said breaking special breaking news, and then they said this is what's going on, and I immediately got on the phone, and the only things that were operating at that time were the cell phones. Everything else went black. They had no electricity. There was no, you know, the normal things that Americans are used to having, um, and so literally overnight they went to having nothing, no food because no refrigerators worked, none of that, um, and so it was a very tough time. And of course, houses were flooded. Some people were on top of their houses trying to be rescued because they couldn't go down below. And what you didn't quite understand was when that broke and the waters came through, that also flooded the swamps and elevated their waters. So in those waters were alligators and predators were in those waters. So people are like, why don't you just go down into the water and get what you need or travel? It was very dangerous. And so they told everyone they needed to meet in the arena that they have there, which was called the Silver Dome. That's where we have a lot of our major sports and things. So it's one of the biggest coliseums. So everyone went there, and they said the government will come and give food and help at that time. And so I was on the phone talking with my cousin, and she was expressing how difficult things were because everything was run now on generators. You did not have access to your money because the banks were all shut down. So you had wealthy people next to poor people, and they were all the same at that point. So if you can imagine someone living in a mansion and then somebody living, maybe on the street that was homeless, and we're all living together in the same coliseum. And so being able to get rid of all those barriers in society and come down to its essence of helping one another changed a lot of people that were there. And some people it was for the better, some people it was not. There was some thievery and violence that happened during that time, but the majority of it was camaraderie and lifting up because everyone knew that they needed to help one another because there was limited help coming in there at that time. Uh, there was the story that came on the news with the helicopter that came in that was filming, and they said that they were being shot at, and everyone's like, why are these people shooting at this helicopter? And my cousin told me the story because she was right there. She said there were people on the pier, and the helicopter was coming up, and they were waving to the helicopter to go away because the wind was coming on the pier, and it was so strong it was threatening to blow some people off of the pier. And they didn't realize the water that was surrounding the pier, there was nothing but crocodiles and alligators right there waiting for somebody to fall in so they can be eaten. So they're waving at the helicopter to go away, but it wasn't. They were just filming, trying to get their story. And so one of the guys, it is New Orleans and they do hunting there. So he pulled out his gun and he shot warning shots in the air, not towards the helicopter, but away from it. And they reported the story, but the story they reported was, we came in to see their help and they were shooting at us.
That is a distorted reporting.
And so that's not news now for years was that. Later on, the story came out and then they said a little something afterwards, but that was it. That was some of the things that took place there. That was the conditions. And the good part of that was it got world attention and the other states and people that came in. We thought that it would be the government. It was the people. The people came in. They actually got in their own vehicles and their things, and they drove down there and they said, you can't go in there. And they said, we're going. And they went in and people that they saw, and they said, we want you to stay at our house. Please come with us. And so they would just get families. And then so the government started to find out about that. So they start sending buses down there at the time and saying, oh, we're going to bus you to another state. And then at that state, we've made connections with churches and other organizations, and they can, help you from there. So there was a migration from a couple of states to Georgia, to Texas, and to California. In different states. There was not one in particular, but those are the ones that I can remember where my relatives went to, was there. And so the benefit was we're able to connect with each other. Some of us haven't spoken to each other in a few years. And so because of that, we're able to connect and be able to this day, support and love one another. And the good news is that everyone that went and moved, and then those that stayed, are doing very well. And so it all boils down to community and people and how we help one another. That is the key thing. Don't always just rely on, oh, the government's going to help us, or these other agencies are going to do it. It's each individual, which is the great success of what happened with New Orleans and how people came together. And it didn't matter if you were white, black, Asian, Latino, everybody came and helped. And so for that, those of us who are, New Orleans is near and dear to us, we love you and we thank you for that, even to this day. Great relationships and family friendships have developed and continue to develop because of that.
There are sometimes things happen that you cannot change. Things happen that are beyond your control. But can we learn anything from it? What you are telling us now is that the people of New Orleans, they had a great lesson to learn from this event that sometimes was just beyond every other person to respond to. It was beyond somebody to prevent, because this is a natural calamity. But why this situation is happening, it revealed to us the human spirit, the human need, and the response to this desire to help one another. This is the way we are. We do help one another as human beings. It is natural for us to help one another. Nobody enjoy when another person is suffering, at least not in a regular situation. When you have a plate of food that you are eating, okay, we'll be talking about food just now, and you see, or you hear of some other person suffering, have no food to eat, or dying of hunger, something shrink in you. That plate of food you are enjoying suddenly it turns to something else. That is the way naturally we respond, because we are human beings. We understand. We understand what it means to not have food to eat. So I think that lesson need to be driven home. And you are saying it didn't matter whether you are black or white, how wealthy you are, or how poor you are, because now it was reduced to the human level. Because sometimes we think that we are in the high hill, that we cannot be touched. And this, of course, sometimes can be manifested in our politics, in the way that we develop economy, in the way that we develop certain area. We think that, oh, it is only there. It doesn't reach us. But if we can learn a lesson from the Hurricane Katrina, and of course, there is another lesson too that we can learn from another situation. Let me put it like that. COVID-19. When COVID-19 broke out, it affected both the poor and the rich, both the green and the yellow, both the blue and the red, both the people that have blue eyes and those that have green eyes, that have yellow eyes, because it reduces us to be human. And that is what we need to, that is where we need to be. Be human. That is what we're
Yes.
asking for. You see, whether you want to travel to the moon or travel to Mars, but first of all, can we even learn to be human? Can we use the resources that we have to save humanity? I was saying, I think in an episode that I did yesterday, that based on our evolution as human beings, as species, based on our technology, we can eradicate all the hunger in the world. I'm not saying only some, all of it. Based on the advancement of technology, we can eradicate, we can make it impossible that somebody can go to bed hungry. But we haven't done that because we are still not at the level of human being. We are still thinking that we need to be up high there so that we could put our leg on somebody else's head.
Mm-hmm.
It's not supposed to be like that. Can we learn from the circumstances around us that we need to be human? Because when we need to be human, when we become human, there is a lot that goes everywhere that can reach us. There is enough for everybody. The earth is rich.
Yes.
It's rich, this planet Earth that we are living in. Nobody can take it away. Nobody can consume this world. Look at all the food that we are wasting every year. But some other person have no food to eat. I like that lesson that you touched, that it make us human. That is
Yes.
important. Yeah, please say
Yes.
something about that. I see.
What the I saw that my cousin had told me was that it didn't matter at the time what you thought you had. Some people have millions of dollars, millions of, but they had no access to it. So no monies. They didn't know where their next meal was going to come. It was the same. Everyone was in the same. Uh, to get food and to just have bread or cheese or water was a blessing. And then there was those who wanted to still have more. You know, even though they got what they had, they still wanted to have more. So the human nature of things, of once we get what we need, there's always that we want more. And so there was a lesson that she had learned, which was, I couldn't believe that we got what we needed, but some people still wanted to have more. And she said that was what, you know, the sorrow part was in the story, was that even though you get what you need, you still want to have more. And that's always the wrong path to go down. You know, be thankful for what you need. So she had her children with her, because it wasn't adults that just went through this. A lot of the children went through this. The parents had to be with their kids when the kids were saying they were hungry and they didn't have any food. And they are not used to that. They're used to just going to the kitchen and getting whatever they wanted. But now there was nothing. And so they were very hungry. They were looking to their parents to, you know, what are you going to do? We're hungry. And then some of them, you know, that were thankful that they had whatever they had, and they were splitting those little crackers or whatever they had with their family and water. So it became the basics that were important in the need: to be warm, to have a place to sleep, to be out of the elements, to have something that could sustain them, and be grateful that they have that. And money was not the currency. There was no money. Money meant nothing there during that time. It was all about the things that your body needed. And then the conversations and being able to encourage one another became important, because everybody was devastated. So they would sing songs. You had people in that group that were entertainers, professional entertainers. And so they had their instruments. So they would just play songs and to encourage the people that were there. And then people would sing. And so you're there with a famous musician and artist, and they're singing. And then you had some people who were there who had the food and said, if you bring these things to me, I will go ahead and cook them, and then everyone can have a nice meal instead of just having those little things. So each person was giving from their talent to give to others. And so in the fashion of, for that culture there in New Orleans, and which is where I come from, that is in us naturally to do that. And so it was a wonderful thing to hear that. Of course, there definitely was tragedy. People had lost their lives, and so, but to honor those people and to be able to move past and to learn from it and to teach the children that were there. Those children that were there saw everything. So their lives were changed forever. And what was really now important to them. Now, years later, these are young adults now, and they have been changed to know the importance of what you need is valuable. What you want is not necessarily a thing to shoot for when you look at what's truly important in life. And so it's really great to see my cousin and her kids, because her kids went through this, and that's how I know it impacted a lot of other people. And of course, not just one cousin, a lot of my cousins. I was in contact with a lot of them and family members, and that was how their kids were impacted. They're not the same as the other kids. They think different. They look at things differently, and they share their story with their friends, which changes those kids as well. So even through this disaster and that story, it was a triumph, because they learned, and now they're applying it, and they're sharing their story with the other kids. And some of them actually were asked to speak in front of whole schools and say, please tell us your story. And then the other kids were in tears because they could picture themselves in something like that and not knowing what to do, but to hear that kid talk about what he went through and how people had helped, and people he never thought that would, and they did. And just him being where he was at, he said, was because of the help of other people. He said, we had nothing. He goes, that family came and got us, brought us to their home, fed us, clothed us, because we had the same clothes that we left in. He goes, we had to bathe, and we tried to stay as clean as possible, but if water was to drink, to survive, washing came second, because that water was now the value of what your body needed. And so you would try to clean yourself in other ways, but still, that, could be looked at as, if you saw someone on the street, like that person is, poor and they smell, and, you don't want to have anything to do with them, but you don't know their story behind things. So that's what he was talking about to the school. It's like, that's what he learned. And he said, so when he saw somebody on the street now, he was going over there and talk to them to hear their story. He goes, most people want to want you to hear their story. And that's the connection. That's the humanity. That's what lifts us all up. And that's one of the essences of kind of the people ask me what kind of chef I am. I'm like, I'm that type of chef. I'm a relationship chef. I'm interact between the cultures, and I create what I do to elevate people through that. And so far, it's been a wonderful thing. I'm able to speak with very enthusiastic and visionary people like yourself and others who might be listening to this right now, because you have a story just like everyone else. No one's unique.
That's so true.
You have a unique story, but no one's just individually, okay, the world is surrounded by me. No, we are all part of the same world. And
Absolutely.
so it's been a great time just to share. just some of the things of what I do. You might relate to that. You might have gone through some challenges yourself. Um, there's a song recently that I heard from an artist, and it's called "Find a Way," and it's a beautiful song. Immediately, I thought of uh, within the talent that I received, how can I be encouraged by that? So, as you mentioned and heard before, that I create different things from music. Um, that was one of the things that I developed, and I called that artist up and asked them. I said, "Hey, I love your music. She's Filipino, by the way." So she has her own culture, and so we were talking, and she was expressing to me her story, and I was like, "Wow!" And I said, could I develop a recipe for you? And she said yes. And so you'll see and you'll hear about that. I am dying to do something within the African culture, but I need to hear some music. I need to hear your story. I need to hear those things so I can go ahead and be able to develop some things. So that's part of my journey of encouragement in my story, is to use the talents that I have to be able to encourage others, to use their talents to encourage others as well. And that's how the world gets changed. That's how things change, is when we do things for others. And it comes back to us in many different ways. And it's
Absolutely.
true blessing. And the journey is wonderful.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Muhammad Ali said that the rent we pay on earth is a service we render to other people. That
Yes.
is, by the time we help other people, you have a way of turning back. That is so true. That is so true. Because it run in a circle. Uh, time in Africa is seen as secular. It's not linear in the sense that you start, then you just move, then you go into the abyss. No, for us, it's secular. You need to move, you go, but you turn around so that everything that goes around turn around to where it is. So it means also that if you do evil, the evil is going to have a way of turning back to you because
Yes.
you are the other. So that you are whatever you see in front of you is being manifested as you. So if you hate yourself, if you hate that thing in front of you, you are hating yourself because the other one is just a mirror for you to see yourself. So it means that if we grow up a little bit more, we just need to be at that level of humanity where we respect ourselves, understand the boundary, contribute to the collective consciousness. You see, I was talking about this wastage that have become part of our culture today, that it is not normal. How do I know that? Just look around in nature because we are part of nature too. I was
Yes.
also making the same example yesterday, talking to a guest that I was having. I was saying, we are used to this idea of producing, then we will waste the food. I said, okay, now let's look at nature. Let's look at the elephant, for example. Or no, okay, I said, let's look at the lion and look at the zebra. The lion can kill zebra anytime. But you see, when the lion has eaten and is not hungry, if the zebra come around and start marching on the lion will not kill the zebra. Because the lion understands the boundary that if you finish all the zebra in the world today, you are the one that will still suffer because you have no zebra to eat. You get it? So we were supposed to sort of have a little understanding of this balance of life that I am part of it, you are part of it. I am
Yes.
human, you are human. Why can't we respect each other? Why can't we love each other? Why can't we build together? I think that is the lesson I'm learning from it. That is the lesson I'm learning from the story that you share with me about Hurricane Katrina or of the COVID-19 or many other things that have happened to us. It's calling us to love ourselves more. It's calling us to become more human. That is what we need. Because with all the advancement in technology today, AI and the rest of it, nothing really can replace the human being. We are unique, we are different. We need more love, more understanding, more of the saying that we are one. In the sense of I can feel you, I can hear you, I understand what is going on because I'm listening. I'm paying attention. When you talk to me, I listen to you. That is what it's not even too expensive what we're asking for to make this world a better place. It's not too expensive. Nobody say, buy me a Ferrari to become a better person. No. We are saying, can you lend your ear to listen to my story? You see, here, I have done more than 1,000 episodes in Obehi podcast. What I've learned is that people love it when they can share their story. And I'm very
Yes.
privileged to listen to all this story. And I have many, 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 many more episodes to do because I love it. I love to listen and I learn. All right, now coming back to this listening and learning, let's go back to the culinary culture now, the cooking.
Yeah.
There was this saying by Enagia. Enagia was making this. Enagia may so rest in peace. Now the famous American motivational speaker. He was saying in one of his speeches that there was this American tourist who came to Paris. He traveled to Paris and he ate a food there. He enjoyed the food. The food was so it was so lovely for him. He enjoyed it. Then he went to the cook and tell the cook about it. Then the cook told him, "Okay, don't worry. I have a book that I've written that explain this menu because of course it's an expert in it. So he have written a book about it." He said, I definitely going to buy that book." The cook gave him the book, and he returned to America. I don't know whether it was in New York or whatever. Then a season have passed. Many years later, he returned to Paris again. Then they went to the same restaurant to eat, and the cook is still there. Then they went to the cook and tell the cook, "I bought your book. I've read it. I did what you say I should do, but and then I cooked the food. But the food I'm eating here, the food that you cook, is still different from the one I cook." Then the cook look at him and say, "You forgot one thing. You forgot to put yourself in the food." All right. Put yourself in the food. Not that you should cook himself. That is not what the cook is saying. The cook is saying you need to put everything you know. You really invest yourself in the food, be present in the food. So there is a story in the food. There is a story behind the plate that you give to the person to eat. If you really pour your heart in it, people will know. If you don't, people will also know. So tell me, what is motivating you into being a cook? What do you really enjoy about it? I'm interested in that.
Yes, I'm so glad that you shared that story. Um, and I've talked to many people since I decided to embrace uh, that talent within me. As I mentioned earlier, that I started off, wanting to do other things. I did the corporate world. I rose up through and became an executive and done all these different things. I went to school, got my degrees. I did all those different things. I even traveled the world, and I even joined the military at the time. Through that, I actually went through a war because of that. And if you would have told me I would be in a war, I probably may not have joined the military at the time. But I did. And so I did my commitment for the country as well. And all these different experiences, and then coming back to pursue and get a higher education from that, doing those things. I'm sharing all these different things is because you had mentioned, putting yourself in it. Some of the things that I described and why I decided to embrace this talent of mine, I always knew that I could cook, and I was doing it effortlessly. I was cooking for my guys, the soldier guys, out in the middle of nowhere when we had nothing, and I would cook it, and they was like, "Oh man, this is like eating in a restaurant here. How did you do that? We're out in the middle of nowhere. How did you do that?" And I said, "You know what?" I said, "It has to do with your soul." And I said, that's what my mom used to say. It's like your culture and your soul, what is in you, innate, something deep within inside of you that you tap into. And that you let go, you embrace it, and then that's what comes forward, and that's what you're able to create. So there are some people in life, culinarily, that they can cook They can cook well. But that is a repetitive measure. Like you had said before, that person gave him the book. That person went, got the book, and they copied that. That is a cook. Then you have the chef, the one who actually created. They tapped into that soul. They tapped into that something innate in them, something that's deep within them that defines who they are. And they tapped and embraced that. That's when they're able to create and do things that is different than what other people would do. And it brings that soulful flavor. It brings that uniqueness to it. And that's why when you go around the world and you eat different chefs' food and creation, it tastes different. It could be the same dish if somebody else did it, but they're going to put their soul in it and it's going to taste different. You go on TV, you see these different cooking shows, and you have the judges that are all chefs. And then you have the guy or lady that's in there doing their thing. And it's the same dish that those judges have cooked and won awards around the world with. And that chef went and cooks it in a different way. And those judges are so impressed. And they're like, I would have never thought about doing this. How did you do that? And so they're expressing, if you hear them, like you said, listening, they're sharing about their life. They're sharing about their father. They're sharing about their grandmother, their mother, somebody in there that said, when I watched them, this was some of the things that they showed and imparted on me and allowed me to think outside of what is written. And I was able to reconstruct and do things that created a whole new flavor. And that came from the heart. You'll hear them say it came from the heart, which means it's coming from the soul. So that is what a chef is. Those that create, those people that culinary wise can write a book and they sell the book, but people wonder why theirs isn't like the others. And that's it. And you can tell them, but until they embrace it and bring it their own heart into it, then they'll understand. And that's one of the things that's hard to express beyond that with others. Who's like, how can you cook this so well? How can you create all these things? And you tell them exactly what maybe how I expressed it, and you might get one of these looks. Oh, I don't really know what that means, because they haven't went inside yet. There's something in their life or something that they haven't embraced from their past to bring that forward. And once they do, then the doors open up for them. Then they're able to do beyond what the book that was given them. So people have asked me the same question. Well, are you planning to do a book? And I said, I'm planning to do a record of journeys, which is going to be a little bit different. I want to let you see what it is that I do, but that's just me having fun and showing my heart and soul. What I'm trying to show is not how I'm doing it. I'm trying to show, embrace your inner talent, embrace what your culture is, embrace who you are deeply in your story. Then you're going to take this, which is a guideline, and you can take it elsewhere. My mother always told me that recipes are not really recipes, they're guidelines. There are basics on how somebody created something, but you can take it to another level, and that runs over into music. How many other musicians and artists have sang other people's songs? And their version of the song becomes the version. Everyone's like, oh my God, that is a wonderful song that you did. But it was sung by somebody else before, but that person took it, something within them, they embraced it, and their version exploded. That's the same thing. That's why food, music, and culture, three things. But I said two. But this right here means the three things. It comes up to this. The double thumbs up is the three things. So you got the food, and you've got the music, and then you got the culture. And with that,
That,
that's
you know
how it
what
all
we
comes
said.
together.
We are definitely going to come back here because here we're not in haste. Um, if I we need to come back again because there are some other aspect of the conversation that I wanted to explore, particularly also you talk about you going to the war, cooking for the military. That's an important conversation I would like also explore even more. Now, for the sake of time, those who are
Sure.
listening to you now, they want to connect with you. They want to be able to learn more. Maybe you have something that you have enough in offer. Tell them how to reach out to you.
Yes. I'm Southern, and so I wanted to keep things as simple as possible. Go to one place, and you'll see all the different layers, all the different things of what I'm doing, and that I add to it. And that's my own custom website you can go to, and it's very easy. It's www.taste, like you're tasting food, the THE craft, CRAFT, not the cheese, but with the C, .net. So www.tastethecraft.net. And when you go there, you'll see craft beer entertainment, because when I first started doing this, chefs cook with wines. And I found out in our history, if you go back to the Egyptian hieroglyphics, beer actually was created by us. The Europeans got the formula and they used it, and that's what they got. But ours was different, and it was done 5,000 years before they even did it. So go ahead and look that up. We created beer, and it was done in a way that was very healthy, and it had a lot of different things in it, so that were all natural. So when I started that, I said, instead of cooking with wines, I'm going to cook with this craft beer, but I want the craft beer as close as possible to what that was done. So I went to those people that created it. That's another story. But so when you go to the main website, www.tastethecraft.net, you're going to see that craft beer entertainment. Just know you're in the right spot. You'll see my nice little glass with the colorful swoop through it, and you know that you're in the right spot. Go to each one of the sections. I have 5 different sections on there because our culture creates all different things. It's not just food. It's also, we have wonderful ways of making people laugh. We have comedy, we have theater, we have arts, we have different clothing, we have all different kinds of things. So, but what is most important is that you receive something that impacts you. So I took all my interests and I put it all into one there. So you can go there, look as much as you like, and it also goes to the other outlets, multimedia outlets too as well, but it's all in one spot. So it makes it simple and easy for you to be able to see everything of what it is that I do.
Thank you so much for that, Vincent. We appreciate you. We appreciate your sharing here. We also appreciate how animated you are about the story, how motivated you are about sharing your story. I really so much appreciate it. Thank you so much for that. And of course, for
Thank
all of
you.
you that have listened to the end of this conversation, we say thank you so much for the time. And we encourage you to subscribe to this channel, and why don't share also with your friends, those who might have interest in what we are talking about here. We talk about story because we believe in the story. We believe in what we have lived, our lived experiences, and we want to share it to attract the right people. Because you see, light attract the same light, you know. So if you share your story, you will attract the same people that have the same similar energy to you. In this way, it become the marketing become even easier for you because now you are not talking to people who are not interested in you, which is why you need to understand how to leverage the power of storytelling. We have a program called Story to Asset Framework, where we basically help you to own your story and use it as a tool to attract the right people. Imagine that for a moment, that you own your story not as a way of crying over it, like when Vincent was talking about the situation in a Hurricane Katrina. He's not crying about it. He have overcome it. This could be maybe the story with you and your husband, the story with you and your wife, the divorce, somebody died, and all of that. all these have happened. You cannot change it. Those are just like nobody could stop Hurricane Katrina coming. You couldn't stop that. It happened. But did you learn anything from it? We help you to hold that story, transform it into a tool that you can use it for yourself. It doesn't crush you because you go beyond it. When you do that, you will be happy because you are attracting. I'm not saying you're going to attract the entire world because you don't attract the entire world. You only attract the right mind people, the ideal client it is called, so that you speak only to them. If you're interested in that, make sure you reach out to me. I will help you to do that. I'm saying that because having interviewed over 1,000 people here, I've learned one or two things. And I will help you to learn that too. So thank you so much, Vincent. It's been a pleasure talking with you here.
Thank you so much. It's been a true pleasure. Thank you. Love your show, and I love what you do.
Thank you so much, brother. Of course, you are coming back again. I promise our audience that you are going to come back again.